the effect of a one-night stand does not only happen within that 24-hour period. Biologically, it stays, especially in the woman's body, for their lifetime.
If you are ready for a lifetime of love, you're ready for your person, you need to act like it. And you need to...
You can be idealistic. You can write down your dream, what you want, but don't be ignorant and delusional.
Yes.
If you have nothing going for you, like if you're fugly and broke and just like not that great of a person,
we need
not
to work
kind,
on that first.
you're not going to attract,
yeah,
some type of supermodel. Or
if you are so rooted in yourself and saying, well, I'm looking for my wife, but I'm also going to sleep with all these women, you're not going to find your wife very quickly. So what we really need to understand,
and I swear to you, after I said like no more sex, the quality of women that came into my field, that came into my life after making that decision, in comparison to the quality of women that were there before the decision, was night and day.
Dating apps have made the top 10% of men have a lot of sex with a lot of women who they will not commit to. This has skewed things.
And if they can understand this, they'll be set for life. They'll find their person, guaranteed.
Welcome back to Listen Before Love. We are back again. And oh my goodness, I am so excited for this topic, dating for love. We are going to talk all about how to date with intention and how to date in a way that you honor that you want to find your person. There are inputs to dating in this way, and that's what we're going to dive into today.
I can't wait. It's going to be a juicy one, I'll tell you that right now.
Ooh! So I'll give you some backstory around where this topic came from. Earlier today, while we were in the kitchen, Cam and I realized that we both celibate dated before we found each other. And we want to dive into that. I know it's a controversial topic because, going a stretch of time without having any love making, it's not an easy feat.
It does something to you.
It does. Especially to men. It does something to you.
Yeah, especially men.
And so we want to share from our perspective why we did that and also why we think it brought us to each other. So we're going to start with a little context. So my baby love, can you bring people into what made you decide not to have sex with anyone for a year, right?
Yeah. Well, first off, a lot of times when you hear about celibate dating, you think of the people that are hardcore religious, right? That are doing this because if they don't, God's going to punish them.
Mm-hmm.
That was not our train of thought at all. For most of my life, I had a handful of 2-year relationships, but a lot of it has been just casual dating, just having fun. High school, college, a little bit of time after that. It was by no means celibate, let's put it that way. And it was kind of everything that we hear nowadays about the dating culture. So I had that life. And then I had a period of time where, I'll just go right into it. So I had a girlfriend I was dating for a little bit less than 2 years. And then when that ended, full transparency, I dated and then slept with 2 girls shortly after.
Mm.
And then after the second girl, I realized I'm just doing this to run away from the emotions that naturally come up after a heartbreak. I'm just doing this to get my mind off of feeling into what's actually best for me right now. And when you realize that, it's such a grounding moment because you realize, oh my gosh, okay, this behavior I've had for quite a while, the whole time, I was running away from something. And for me, that's probably a little bit different than most, but I was running away from committing to a life I knew I was capable of. I was running away from stepping into a higher version of myself when it comes to realigning my priorities to be around serving others, to be around the betterment of my own health and happiness, to building what I know I could have built, chasing women, especially in your late teens, early 20s when it's kind of expected, is a great distraction, is a great coping mechanism from feeling what needs to be felt and having the conversations with yourself around what do I actually want from this life. And so as I got out of a relationship with that girl I was dating for a very long time, who I had a lot of love and respect for, that was probably one of the bigger heartbreaks of my life. And then just kind of going back into the streets, if you want to call it that, I realized like I feel empty inside. I don't feel good. And then me at that time being 23, I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Spending my time at nights, like swiping right on Tinder so many times that my finger starts to cramp. And like just trying my best to, let's go on a date, let's do this, let's fill up the entire week with as many dates as possible or whatever it is. Like, why? Why am I doing that? And there's some part of society, it's like, oh, you're young, cut yourself some slack, just have fun, do your thing. But through my own personal experience, I realized like, I think a lot of men are doing that right now because we feel lost. And because it's easier to do that than it is to look ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves, like, what do we actually want? And so from that period of time, wow, yeah, almost exactly a year. I think it was March 2023. To having met you February 2024, then dated in March 2024. It had been a year since I slept with someone. And within that year, there were still like women coming into my field, like women wanting to, see if this is relationship worthy, whatever it was. But I told myself, like, I'm not going to have sex. And there were even multiple situations where they were definitely down for it. I could definitely do it. But something inside of me just like, no. When I was able to look within myself more and feel my own pain and empathy and compassion, naturally, I felt that way for everyone around me. And so I realized that even if the women are the ones enticing it to happen, saying they want it, I now understood a deeper aspect of human nature that us humans, the effect of a one-night stand does not only happen within that 24-hour period. Biologically, it stays, especially in the woman's body, for their lifetime. But especially the past handful of days after something like that happens, they feel this emotional attachment to the man that is hard to put into words. And when you're going into it of, oh, this definitely is not my wife, this is a girl I went a few dates with, okay, we'll just have a good time and then we'll see where things go. But you always know, like, this isn't my person, this, whatever it is. We create all the excuses to allow that behavior to continue. But I realized if I was being true to myself, when I allowed myself to reflect on how I was in my life, I realized like, oh, this is not best for me and my mental and emotional health. And this damn sure is not best for their emotional health and their physical health, every part of them. And when I realized it as like, if I approach a girl who I know I'm not going to be with the rest of my life, I'm only going to bring her further away from her inevitable person. And I'm only bringing myself away from my inevitable person. And so, yeah, I just kind of made the commitment. And I swear to you, after I said like, no more sex, not saying until I get married by any means, but until I find the one, the quality of women that came into my field, that came into my life after making that decision, in comparison to the quality of women that were there before that decision, was night and day. all women are worthy of love, all women are worthy of respect. After I made the choice within to realign my priorities in dating, that is when wifey material women came into my field, came into my life. And I realized, like, oh my gosh, there's something to this. And when a wifey material woman comes in your life, you just have to act different. Even your response time and text them feels different. Everything feels different. But when you're open to understanding that your field, your reality, the women, your network, whatever it is, will shift as soon as you do, that is when you fully empower yourself to align yourself with the values, principles, beliefs that will serve you in whatever you want in life. And I remember there was a period of time in which, I don't think I've ever showed this to you, a period of time with which I made that decision, celibate dating, and I realized, like, okay, only women that are wifey-ish material are coming in my life. I told myself I'm only going to date women that I'm going to get serious with. And even that, it's still kind of a like cop out. I was like, okay, well, maybe, you know, I can see myself dating for a few years. I don't really know if it turns out to be a wife or whatever. I had the door a little open there, which is completely okay. And something I think a lot of men would benefit from believing. And so because I had that intention of that happening, only women that I would seriously date for a longer period of time came in the field. But then a week before I ran my marathon, I've never shared this before, I had one of the lower points in my life. I had moved to Austin in a 1-bedroom apartment, nothing but a mattress on the ground. I have pictures of it. I'll post it online soon. Didn't know what I was doing with my life. Didn't know how I was going to make money. Didn't know anything. Lost. Didn't know how to navigate, girls. Didn't know how to do anything. And I remember getting high one night. So I took like a lot of cannabis, ate like 2 Domino's pizza because I was still a binge eater at that time. And I remember crying myself to sleep, being like, I'm ready for the next chapter of my life, and I'm ready for my wife. So even when I still kind of had my shit together, I wasn't broke by any means, there was something within me that felt as if it was time to declare to the world that I'm ready for my wife. And that any other woman that's in this reality that isn't my wife, I want to send the energy to them that, hey, I respect you. You're an amazing person, but you're not the one for me. And mutually, respectfully, I don't want to waste either our time or energy or get us caught up in anything that doesn't feel aligned. But when I told the universe, I'm ready for my wife, truly, and I felt it, it's as if I signed a contract that I am going to become husband material today. I'm going to act in integrity in all moments, especially with women. I'm going to build myself incrementally into the person that's capable of holding the amount of love that my future wife will be willing to give to me. When I signed that energetic contract, I met you 8 days later. Now, anyone, especially high or drunk, could be with their friends like, I'm ready to get married. I'm ready for a husband. Where is he? I've heard that a million times. I'm not here to say that my experience, if you just take the word that's out of my mouth, is going to have you be that. But what I think was really important is that when I said those words were symbolic for the feeling I had rushed through my entire body of today I am a changed man. Today I operate in a way that is husband material, that is leader material, that is future father material, and no other ounce of any energy that goes against that is going to be possible in this new version of myself. And so I started to make the shifts. And I wasn't that far from it. I was still a great dude and had a lot going for him. But there was a fine tuning that with that fine tuning would allow for me to put aside the, oh, yeah, maybe this can turn out to be the one, whatever it is, to know I am only attracting the one. As soon as I made that commitment and started acting upon it, it happened.
And if you're comfortable sharing,
I'll share anything.
Cam had a trip to go see a woman in this 8 days. Okay. So in this low point where he said, I'm ready to meet my wife. And then on that date, you signed up for the Austin Marathon, didn't you? That night that you said that. And by the way, him signing up for the Austin Marathon is the only reason we met, because he went to Lizard Yoga to recuperate the day after the marathon.
Yeah.
On February 19th.
Yeah.
So his contract.
This situation we're about to talk about, in another episode, I'll give the full picture. I also don't believe the book is finished on this. I think there will be communication to really help us simmer out everything that happened. But yeah, there was one girl that lived another part of the country that felt like one of these ones I should take seriously. I knew in my heart this wasn't the one, but I hadn't had the feeling of what the one would feel like yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, well, this is the closest I've ever felt to that. Let me see where this goes. And so before I make the commitment of I'm, only husband, whatever it is, before I'm like, I only want the one, this girl was on my awareness and we were talking often. And I hadn't really made it incredibly clear, like, I want a future with you, but I also didn't do the opposite. And so this girl lingered for a period of time in my life. And before I made that commitment to myself, I booked a plane ticket to go see her for a weekend. And just how life unfolds, a few days after, met you. And we were even like in the friend zone. Like, this girl's cool. Let's figure this out. As I already have this other trip planned.
Mm-hmm.
And then literally 4 hours, I'd say, before my flight to go see that girl, I knew you were the one. I can't make this shit up.
That's incredible. And it's very true. I saw him. He dropped me off to my apartment. We were still friends at this time. I think this was the day that I was like, I'm going to kiss you the next time I see you. Isn't that what I said?
Like
I think it was a big day.
Yeah.
And I left him on a cliffhanger because I'm real playful and kind of a nut. And so I'm like, I'm going to kiss you the next time I see you.
Yeah.
And then
I'm like, well, we've seen it tomorrow then.
And that was how we left off before he went on this trip to see this other woman, which, by the way, I was completely okay with because, like we said in prior episodes, you don't own anyone. Your attachment at that point, we had just admitted we had a crush on each other. So there was no ownership. There was no, you can't go. Like, he booked the trip he wanted to go. He felt like he needed to go. He was very transparent with me that, like, hey, this could have been something with this woman, but now I know there's obviously not something with this woman, but something's telling me I still need to go on the trip. Okay.
Yeah. And it was super impactful. And it was a unique type of thing going on in my mind and her mind during that time where I was really stepping into becoming a spiritual teacher. And all of our conversations prior were around those topics. If I'm being fully truthful to myself, I'd also understand that probably a big driving force by her being so consistent with our connections was romantic. And I think I kind of chose to look the other way on that for quite a while. But then flying out there and seeing her in person, I couldn't avoid that anymore. And a very short period of time into being in front of her, I told her, like, I think we're just meant to be friends. And a very abrupt reaction, understandably. But then as the day kind of progressed and she wanted to continue that day together, I think we both became very like at peace with it. And we're just like, well, I'm here, you're here. Let's just have fun. Let's just like enjoy this downtown city and go to shops and a restaurant. And there's still a huge part of our connection. We talked about spirituality, we talked about consciousness, we talked about personal development that was mutually beneficial. Like, let's just continue that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this doesn't have to be a ruined weekend because of wrongful expectations, right? Or misled expectations on my end. But yeah, and so that, I don't feel as if there's a fully closed chapter there yet, fully closed book there. But I also feel as if it's not, it doesn't feel right for me right now to kind of like open that can of worms again and then address it and then be like, all right, bye forever now. I feel as if the natural conversation will happen with her if there's anything else for us to communicate about. That all being said, it would have been very easy for me if I wasn't dedicated on not understanding necessarily it was for you at the time until the day of. I could have easily made this other woman believe that, yeah, we have potentially a future together. And I easily could have slept with her that trip. But there was something within me being like, that goes against what I signed up for. That goes against the emotional, energetic contract I signed for myself that I'm going to see through. And although I don't think that whole situation was handled perfectly, I also believe it happened exactly how I was supposed to. And I'm very glad myself that I respected her to the utmost extent that I believe called for in that moment. Long story short, the reason for bringing this up, I really believe, is we declare to the universe what we want. And if we not only say, but then act upon the understanding, the emotional contract we're signing, that I'm going to step into the version of myself necessary to not only attract a plethora of women or men, whatever it is, but to attract the one and only the one.
Yeah.
That is going to expedite your path to finding them. Saying all that, I would love to hear from you, because I know you had some form of this too.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like to be committed to the inevitable one?
Yeah, that was beautiful, baby. And thank you for sharing so openly. I think one thing I really want to underscore on what you said is that in the energetics of looking for your soulmate, if you are abandoning your soul to please your body at the expense of someone you know isn't the one, if you are so rooted in yourself and saying, well, I'm looking for my wife, but I'm also going to sleep with all these women, you're not going to find your wife very quickly. So what we really need to understand is that what we found and what I've seen time and time again in my friends and people I work with is that if you are ready for a lifetime of love, you're ready for your person, you need to act like it. And you need to say no to even very enticing opportunities that you know are not the one. Because the more you have these casual relationships, we put the word casual on sex, which I think is one of the biggest myths we have ever created, because sex is anything but casual for women, which I've talked about before. Women are wired for connection. And so hormonally, biologically, whether or not women want this to be the case, when you are having sex as a woman, the hormone oxytocin is released in your body, which is one of the most powerful hormones, the love hormone, the bonding hormone that happens when you give birth, when you breastfeed, when you orgasm during sex. And it instantly bonds you to the man that you're sleeping with, whether or not you want to be bonded to him. This is why you see so many of your friends or yourself being like, I didn't even like this guy, and now I'm obsessed with him. How does that happen? It's because it's not anything we can control in the mind. The body has its own mind. It's really dictated by our hormones. And so sex, if you see it as not a casual act, but truly a bonding act for women, it completely changes your willingness to have sex if you're looking for a lifetime of love or looking for your person. And so I think for me, when I found the science of sex and how the hormones at play in sex make women, for better or for worse, whether or not they want to be, emotionally bonded with that man, whereas for men, as we talked about before, oxytocin, if he does not have an emotional connection and it's a one-night stand or a fling or a situationship, just feels like a good old workout in the gym. Heck yeah, conquered that one. That was amazing. Thanks, bud. High five. That's how men experience sex if there's not an emotional connection, okay? And this is what, as we talked about in a prior episode, causes situationships. Now, if you know that, if you really sink into the truth of what I just said, then you will understand that if you're looking for your person, anyone along the path to your person that you have sex with will put your person further away from you. So literally visualize it like a road. Every person that you have sex with, when you know they're not the one, is making the road longer and longer and longer and longer, little mile markers on the road. And then your person is now a year away, 2 years away, 3 years away, 4 years away. And what you can control here is yourself, your own willingness to have sex when you know it's not the one. You are in full control, like me and Cam are talking about, and deciding, I am ready for that deeper lifetime commitment, and I'm going to act like it.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because that's exactly what I bring up to your attention. Women watching this that have already had the inclination, which they already have, don't get it twisted. They've already had the inclination, okay, maybe sleeping with this many guys I barely know, not even, anything to really offer, probably isn't what's best for me, right? And so now let's say after listening to you and after listening to myself, I'm like, okay, I'm open to committing to, what would we call it? Intentional dating?
Yeah, dating for love.
Dating for love. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to change my actions to prime myself to date for love. Mm-hmm. What do those actions, besides just not sleeping with men anymore, what do those actions look like?
I think as you were saying that, and now whatever choice you make on this is perfect and fine. Who we are talking to is the person who comes to me on a daily basis and says, I really want to find my person. This is who we're talking to. Now, if you want to date for pleasure, that's completely fine too. And we're not judging you at all. If you want to continue to have sex, that's completely fine. What we want is for you to have all the information. I want you, everyone listening to this, to deeply understand the science behind sex, which I did not know until about 2 years ago, growing up Catholic and never having sex education before in my life. I did a deep dive on this stuff, and this is why we bring up this idea of celibate dating. This isn't coming out from a religious place. This is coming from a place of sheer information and hormones that made a huge difference. And I truly believe, after walking this path, that me making that choice is what made it clear as day when I met Cam that he was my person, because I had acted accordingly to the soul contract and energetic contract I had made that said, you know what? I'm ready, and I'm going to act like I'm ready. So here are some things that we will scratch the surface on, and we can do a whole new episode on later. In addition to declaring what you want and saying, I am ready to find my person. I am ready for a lifetime of love. I am ready for my wife or my husband. There are different actions you can do right after making that declaration, outside of not having sex and reserving that clarify that feeling. Now, we mentioned this in a prior episode around creating a soulmate checklist, right? I actually got an amazing DM about like, what exactly should that look like? You want this list to be as exhaustive as feels right. Now, I may even share the list I wrote myself because it really helped me understand who my man was. And guess what? Cam hit every single thing on my list. Now, this list was not just physical attributes, which, by the way, I included. My soulmate wasn't faceless. Attraction is important, people. And I said I wanted someone who was tall. I think I put 6 foot or above because I wanted to be a little conservative. Cam 6'2", baby. That I wanted him to have flowing, beautiful, thick hair. Look
This
at
is
that.
your creation, by the way. I didn't have that before.
I know, but your hair, I saw potential.
But another,
I saw potential. Yeah. That I wanted him to have sparkly, happy eyes that I could get lost in. That's what he had. Beautiful, full lips. Just a beautiful smile that lit up the room. I wanted him to have a calm, grounded presence. I wanted him to be an amazing listener, an amazing speaker. I wanted him to have passions that we could work on together. These are just a couple examples. But I went off of the physical there. Cam is literally, I think I said I wanted someone with like a wide build. Like I like big men. And like, Cam's big, he got a big frame and he got like big legs. I put all this stuff in there. I like exactly how Cam is. Like he is my dream man, literally. Like he made in a lab and he was made in a lab, actually, by the way. And so he is literally my dream. Now, I did not say that because I'm like afraid to not get what I want. No, I declared what I wanted. And then the universe delivered like an Amazon Prime 2-day shipping. Okay. So I had a question. Can we put physical attributes? Hell yeah. Now, what I want to encourage you to consider, though, is that we don't want to be so specific that we rule people out because they don't fit one box. And I'll give you an example. On the height thing, I like men who are taller than me because I'm like a curvaceous lady and I like to feel small. Now that's a personal thing. And I also just like to cuddle and it just feels good for me. Now, I was not going to say I want 6'5" and above because then guess what? That would have ruled out Cam, right? So I'm not going to be like delusional with my list. I'm going to be like, what is truly like something that I would feel so good about? I didn't put eye color because I didn't want to rule that out. I didn't want to create anything on my list that would rule someone out and make me think like, is this my person because they don't have blue eyes? No. So think about it in that way. You don't want to have disqualifiers that don't actually matter. So try to be specific as you can, because there are things we all like, but like Cam's hair wasn't like this when we met. He's built this beautiful hair. His hair was like...
You've built this beautiful hair.
His hair was this... I could put up a picture of Cam when I met. I took a picture of him the day we met in the yoga studio.
Yeah, have him like put it on the screen.
It was like a little spiky, like... But I saw the potential. I was going to rule out my man because he didn't have like the flowing hair I talked about. So this is just why I share this.
Yeah. Let me chime in on that for a second.
Go ahead, baby.
You can be idealistic. You can write down your dream, what you want, but don't be ignorant and delusional.
Yes.
If you have nothing going for you, like if you're fugly and broke and just like not that great of a person,
we need
not
to work
kind,
on that first.
you're not going to attract, some type of supermodel or pro athlete or celebrity, whatever it is. It's just not going to happen. And I see a lot of men and women really suffer there because they think they're worthy of the movie stars when they're just watching movies from the mother's basement. Like, let's be very, very real, because the other key thing to this whole thing is once we get crystal clear on what we're looking for, we need to ask ourselves, okay, that person that has these physical attributes, these mental and emotional attributes, this type of lifestyle, we need to ask ourselves, what does that person want in a partner? Mm-hmm. What would be on their list? Mm-hmm. And how do I, to the best of my ability, become that?
I think that's fantastic advice. Something hit me as you were sharing that. One way to check yourself on your like level of delusion is who have you seriously dated in the past? Okay. So think of that as like a barometer for what you're able to get, for lack of a better word, because where I see a lot of women go wrong, and this has become very confusing. We could do a whole nother episode on this because dating apps have made the top 10% of men have a lot of sex, with a lot of women who they will not commit to. This has skewed things. And so there's a lot of women I talk to who want the movie star 6'5", George Clooney, but that guy realistically is out of their league. Now, I'm being really real here. I know this might hurt people's feelings, but we need to look in our past on who has seriously committed to us to this point. What attributes did they have? What did they look like? Not saying they have to be picture perfect, but what's their height, right? What are some of these things that we were able, for lack of a better term, to achieve, to get in the past that wasn't a situationship, that was not casual sex? These are different categories of commitment. So that, just as a delusion checker, if you want, is a good way to say, like, is my list attainable? Now, if you're a man who has never dated any of the attributes that you put on your list, we need to rethink things. Same goes for women. So I just wanted to put that in there because I want to give people something tangible that they can look at and be like, can I actually achieve this? Can I shoot for these stars here? We want you to actually be successful here.
Most definitely. Let me make it crystal clear. A 9 or 10 man will casually sleep with a 6 or 7 if it's incredibly convenient.
Mm-hmm.
He will not have a long-term relationship with a 6 or 7. He will only have a long-term relationship with 8, maybe 9 or 10 that match him.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's happening here is the top 10% of men have the pick of the litter for any women they want at any given time with these applications.
Yes.
And because of that, it's giving a distorted view to the 6s out there of what they are worthy of. Just because you get a pro athlete to sleep with you for one night stand does not mean that you're going to marry a pro athlete.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Or a situationship. Now, and I know these terms, like, this isn't how we usually talk, but we're being just realistic here. Like, everyone is beautiful and worthy and loved and enough in their own way, but if we want to be successful in love, we need to understand what we're bringing to the table. And we can best understand that by what we got in the past and who we've attracted into our field for serious commitment in the past. So one thing I want to just end on, because I think we're out of time, is that the best thing that we will leave you with, we can go further into this topic, there's a lot to talk about here, is becoming the attributes you put on your soulmate checklist. Now, I think we'll do a whole nother episode dedicated to the soulmate checklist because we can go deeper into not only physical attributes, but I call it like physical attributes, personality, and values. That's what the list should comprise of. And we can go deeper on all of these. I can also show you my list. But this list can be exhaustive. I had one DM that was like, Auntie Seema on Indian matchmaking says to put 3 things on your list. We don't believe that. I truly believe the more you can clarify the signal and the feeling of what you're looking for, the more easily you will recognize it when it comes into your field. That is why I was able to feel the feeling of, oh, this is the one, when I met Cam, got to know him more deeply and was like, oh my God, I love being around him. He makes me feel so safe. He's so handsome. He's like so attractive to me. He's everything I could ever want in a man. And then it was just like, boop. And we've been inseparable ever since.
Exactly.
And it's because I clarified the signal. So don't be afraid to own your desires, but be realistic about what we can achieve. We do not want to be in delusion land.
This topic deserves an entire book.
We're gonna
probably
have a
one day
whole
it'll get
episode.
one. We'll definitely have a whole other episode. We'll probably write a book on this one day.
Yes.
This is very, very important people understand. And if they can understand this, they'll be set for life. They'll find their person guaranteed.
Oh, I love it. So thank you for joining this beautiful episode, y'all. As a little note before we wrap up, we just want to say thank you for being here with us on this beautiful journey. We have gotten so many DMs, so many questions, so many shows of support for this beautiful Listen Before Love experience. And I just want to invite anyone listening to this, if you're able to take a couple moments to give us a 5-star rating if you enjoy, or leave us a review, or like our video on YouTube, or subscribe. These little things, I did not understand how big of a difference they made until we started making content. So if you could give us a little love, even if it's just a double tap, we would be so, so thankful. And by the way, for some exciting news, we are the top 25 relationship podcast in Hong Kong.
Thank you, Hong Kongers.
Thank you, Hong Kong.
I don't know if that's the right thing. Hong Kongers. The people of Hong Kong.
Thank you, people of Hong Kong. We love you.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. We love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Love you guys.
We love you so much. Bye-bye. thank you so much for watching that beautiful episode. We hope you enjoy.
We're having a great time.
We're having a great time. Oh my gosh. Thank you for being here. My nails match my dress, by the way. I'm living. So thank you for being here. We love you, love you, love you. And if you want to hear more from us, you can go over here, get it, baby, over there. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, guys. Love you.